This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, a new record. The number of Nova Scotians on the family doctor waitlist surpasses 160,000. Grape growing past. How aging vines could hold the secret to naturally pest-resistant fruit. And Stanley Cup fever. This Oilers superfan hopes for an historic comeback finish tonight.
Scattered showers and a risk of thunderstorms not only tonight, but again throughout the day on Tuesday before this low finally departs. The full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. As Nova Scotia's population continues to grow, so does the number of people in the province without a family doctor. The latest numbers in Nova Scotia's Need a Family Practice Registry shows over 160,000 people are on it as of June 1st. In Halifax, hundreds more will soon be going on the list when their family doctor retires in 2 weeks. The CBC's Paul Palmeter has our top story tonight.
Rhonda Blackburn waits for her last appointment with her doctor, who is retiring in 2 weeks. In total, 5 people in her family will be looking for a new doctor.
Myself, my mother, who's 80 years old, my daughter, who's type 1 diabetic, my granddaughter, and my daughter's father, who will all be losing Dr. Spicer.
Without a doctor, Blackburn knows she is joining a very long list of Nova Scotians on the lookout for a new one.
I've had friends that have been waiting for quite a few years now themselves, so I guess we're just not prepared. We weren't prepared.
The doctor who runs the clinic where Blackburn and her family have been going for several years has about 2,000 patients. Most of them will now be stuck without a family doctor.
The thought of swinging in the wind without a doctor is just, it hits you right in the gut. He's just been so bang on all these years, and our options now are very, very few. I can see us spending hours in Emerge tying up their resources for issues that normally would have been addressed by your GP.
According to the Need a Family Practice Registry, the hardest hit communities are South Cumberland, where more than 30% of the population is on the list. Yarmouth, where more than 25% of the population has signed on to the registry. It's not just a rural issue either. Halifax Citadel has nearly 23% of its population on the list. Of the 1,859 people who were added to the list since May, 801 said it was because their care provider is retiring. The province looks at the doctor numbers a bit differently, going as far as to say they are actually trending in the right direction.
The actual growth of the registry has actually started to level and flatten. So if we look back 4 or 5 months ago, we were seeing a growth in the registry that was closer to, say, 3,000. Really over the last 3 months, that's actually dipped down to below 2,000 per month for each of those months.
When elected 3 years ago, now Premier Tim Houston ran a campaign heavily focused on fixing healthcare. Opposition leaders say the fix is not happening.
Healthcare has not been fixed, and that is despite record spending. And so that suggests to us that the priorities are not the right ones.
If we don't deal with this family doctor issue, the rest of our healthcare system isn't going to get better. It's going to keep getting worse.
In the last year, the province only hired a net of 10 new doctors. The healthcare file and whether the Houston government has done enough to try and recruit more doctors into the system will be a big one for the next provincial election. Paul Palmeter, CBC News, Halifax.
I'll talk to Dr. Gihad Gobran, president of Doctors Nova Scotia, about the record high wait list and what he thinks about the province's efforts to attract more family doctors. That's our Newsmaker just after 6:30. Public Health is investigating a confirmed case of hepatitis A in Amherst. Public Health is warning that anyone who ate or drank food at the Tim Hortons on South Albion Street between May 30th and June 14th may have been exposed to the virus. People who were there and who experience symptoms between now and the end of July should see a primary care provider. Symptoms can include a fever, loss of appetite, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and abdominal discomfort. There can also be a darkening of urine and yellowing of the skin or eyes. Public Health says it's been in touch with people at higher risk of getting the infection from this case and offering them a vaccine to prevent symptoms. A 40-year-old man is dead after a single vehicle crash in the Annapolis Valley over the weekend. The crash happened on Highway 8 in the community of Maitland Bridge just after midnight on Sunday. RCMP say a green Pontiac Pursuit was traveling on the highway when it left the road, hit a power pole, and came to rest on its side in the ditch. The driver from Italy Cross was the sole occupant of the vehicle. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Police are still investigating the case. Well, Nova Scotia is hoping for an answer from Ottawa this summer on the request for a bailout of energy debt. Nova Scotia Power is short hundreds of millions of dollars following several years of volatile fuel prices. And without help from the federal government, customers could be on the hook. Taryn Grant reports.
Some people say a reckoning is looming for Nova Scotia Power and those who rely on it to keep the lights on. This is why. Several months ago, we learned that Nova Scotia Power had nearly $400 million in debt, and it was putting the company and its customers at risk. The utility was facing a disastrous credit rating downgrade, and customers could have been hit with a spike in power rates of 20%. The issue was partly solved when the provincial government stepped in to defer some of that rate shock, but the utility's regulator is worried that it's only a Band-Aid. If you're wondering how all this happened, it starts with how Nova Scotia Power charges its customers. Nova Scotia Power sets energy rates by predicting what it will cost to generate power. In recent years, the actual cost has been way higher than the prediction, mostly because global fuel prices surged with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and they've remained volatile. The difference is known as unrecovered fuel costs, and that amount reached $395 million last year. Typically, Nova Scotia Power adjusts the next year's power rates to recoup unrecovered fuel costs. But the utility, the province, and the regulator all agreed that was not going to work for such a large amount of money. So this spring, the province bought $117 million of Nova Scotia Power's debt. Its customers still have to pay that amount back, but it will be spread out over 10 years to soften the blow. The deal had to be approved by the Utility and Review Board, and they did approve it, but they were wary about it. They say while it benefits ratepayers in the short term, it's not a permanent or adequate solution. Nova Scotia Power is still racking up debt. It's predicting a shortfall of another $222 million next year. So the province is looking to the federal government for help. The provincial cabinet minister who oversees Nova Scotia Power told me he's had positive conversations with his counterpart in Ottawa about this growing debt load. He says there's precedent for it. Ottawa bailed out Newfoundland and Labrador's utility over the Muskrat Falls boondoggle. So what about Nova Scotia? He's hopeful that a bailout will be offered in the coming months. Beyond that, the government is hoping the transition to renewable energy will be the ultimate solution to this problem. Nova Scotia is hustling to build wind farms and tap into other forms of renewable energy to green the grid and stabilize energy rates. But fossil fuels still account for more than half of the electricity on our grid, so that transition is far from complete. Taryn Grant, CBC News, Halifax.
All right, Ryan, so that very hot weather is gone, but that humidity came back.
It certainly did, with the wet weather building back in, that much needed wet weather. And yeah, still looking at some showers out there. Temperatures, you can see high teens, low 20s for highs today. Not all that hot, but yeah, muggy, as we've been saying. Humid, not quite oppressive, but high teen dew points out there, so certainly making it feel sticky. And you can see for temperatures tomorrow, high teens, low 20s. The humidity will be with us overnight tonight in through tomorrow morning, but a noteworthy change in the winds tomorrow to a northerly wind is going to usher out A, the unsettled weather, and B, that humidity as well. So we'll really feel a drop. Nope. The risk of thunderstorms on tap, not only for tonight, seeing a few rumbles of thunder out there right now, especially across Cape Breton. That risk does continue tonight, and it will continue into tomorrow as well. It's thanks to this low, which is taking its time, tracking from west to east. Note tomorrow morning, we'll just see some scattered showers and the risk of thunderstorms around the center of this low. Tomorrow morning looks like the best chances are going to be towards Cape Breton, but even as the low departs, we'll see that risk continuing into the afternoon. But as that low moves out, counterclockwise spin around this low. And so that will be that northerly wind tucking in and across the province through tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening, and that will bring in that nicer, fresher air mass. And then for Wednesday, it looks like an A++ day. Nice southerly winds, temperatures well into the 20s, and yeah, looking like a pretty nice one indeed. That 7-day forecast includes Canada Day weekend.
Aha.
We'll have a look at that coming up with the full forecast in just a few.
But A++, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah, definitely
All
nice.
right. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Well, federal government scientists in Nova Scotia's Annapolis Valley are looking at ways to cut down on pesticide and fertilizer use in vineyards. And they're using the province's grape growing past as their laboratory. The CBC's Richard Cuthbertson explains.
What if there was another way to avoid using so many pesticides? And what if the answer is behind this cottage past the little lettuce patch, and that aging grapevines like this one hold the secret to survival?
This cultivar was popular back in the early 1800s, probably came to Nova Scotia sometime in the 1800s.
A few years ago, Agriculture Canada scientist Harrison Wright went on a mini quest.
So it was one of the best jobs I ever did as a researcher, I have to say. It's not the only thing I did the whole summer, but I would take the odd day once a week and I would just travel around up and down the valley.
Knocking on doors and scanning backyards, woods, botanical gardens like this one in Annapolis Royal.
Word of mouth was a big part of it. I was just looking for old feral vines. And so by feral, I mean these are like cultivars, mostly plants that were cultivated for agriculture. But I wanted ones that were just living on their own. They weren't being farmed. They were out in the wild and seemed to be doing very well.
Feral grapevines that have somehow thrived without pesticides, without fertilizers, without any human help at all. The secret is not the plant itself, but rather the microorganisms, the funguses on it and in it that can beat back crop-destroying pathogens like downy mildew, which left unchecked wreak havoc on commercial vineyards.
Hey Shaka, I got a leaf here for you.
Bringing those natural solutions to Nova Scotia's commercial wine sector means first bringing the leaves from old vines here to Agriculture Canada's Kentville Research Centre.
The leaf of the plant is also very rich with microorganisms, and it has been estimated that 1 square centimeter can contain up to 10 million microorganisms. And all those microorganisms are not bad. A lot of them are useful. They are helping the plant to fight against the pathogens. They are helping the plant to get nutrients from the soil.
Those good guys, they're called endophytes, are narrowed down in the lab to the pest-fighting ones. Cell cultures are used to pit them against the mildews that plague vineyards, a competition to see who wins. Other experiments examine how other microorganisms could help cut down on industrial fertilizers. The goal of the research is to eventually bring it to a place like this, a commercial vineyard in Nova Scotia, to make it more resilient and ultimately more productive.
We always want to get better at what we do, and we always want to be more sustainable at what we do. So I think research and looking to the future and these things are very important to the future and the growth of our industry.
Work for the future that began with a hunt into the past. Richard Cuthbertson, CBC News, Annapolis Royal.
A Halifax Junior High School has now installed a stair lift after a student launched a petition calling for the move in February. Lux Melanson started her campaign for the lift at Fairview Junior High School as part of a class project. She did it because she was upset that students who use mobility aids could not get down the stairs to the tech ed room. The Halifax Regional Centre for Education says the lift has now been installed and tested and now needs to be inspected. That means the 15-year-old who's about to graduate grade 9 might not see her friends actually using it.
I don't really have to see it, but obviously I have friends that are in lower grades than me, and they'll be able to tell me. And as long as students can access the classroom now and can participate in it, who cares if I see it? I could always access the classroom. It's not going to make a difference if I see it or not. It's just about the other students.
The Centre for Education says it was already aware of the issue before the student petition and working through the procurement process. It says staff were able to support all students and deliver curriculum in other learning spaces in the building. HRCE says the inspection of the lift will be done by the Department of Labour, but could not say when that would happen. A community engagement session is being held tonight in Spryfield to talk about a new ice arena. It's to discuss a new arena that will replace the Spryfield Lions Club rink, which is approaching the end of its life. This is a chance for people to weigh in on amenities they'd like to see in a new arena. Some options being considered include having 2 ice surfaces, a canteen, and a fitness center. Those who can't attend tonight's session at the Captain William Spry Community Center will have until July 21st to fill out an online survey about the rink. Well, the fate of St. Patrick's Catholic Church on Brunswick Street in Halifax has been hanging in the balance for decades. Earlier this year, the Archdiocese announced that the last Mass will be held on June 30th and the church would be closed. But now, even that last farewell isn't possible. On Friday, the municipality ordered the building vacated for safety reasons and placed a fence around the entrance. Vernon Ramasar tells us more.
Parishioners knew the end was coming for their beloved church, but weren't expecting the municipality's order to vacate on Friday. Blair Bede, the church's historian and unofficial caretaker, said he got the news on Thursday night. By the time he arrived at the building at 7:30 the next morning, a fence was already up around the entrance.
It was planned they were going to close us soon, and this just sped up the process and made it a bit of a hurry and a shock without sort of a celebration of the life of the building.
The church is 140 years old. Prior to the closure, the Archdiocese said the building was in need of extensive and expensive repairs. It says structural engineers said the steeple was in danger of falling down, and plans were being made to remove it. The building is a provincial and municipal heritage site. A provincial heritage spokesperson said they have not received a formal application for any major alterations to the church, but it says the Archdiocese has asked about the process for obtaining permission. Bede says the contents of the church are also significant. The altar was made in Halifax from imported marble, and the organ is a registered heritage instrument made in Quebec and installed in 1898. Many of the stained glass windows are replacements for those destroyed by the Halifax explosion and remade by the same German firm. Bede's family has been involved with the church since its inception, and it's been an important part of his life. He says the bleak outlook for the church has been difficult.
It's very difficult to say goodbye to a place you really love.
The Archdiocese says once work has been done to make the structure safe, the parish community will arrange for a final Mass and the removal of sacred objects. In the meantime, parishioners and those who love the church are in limbo, not knowing when or if they'll ever see the interior in all its glory again. Vernon Ramasar, CBC News, Halifax.
Well, excitement is building ahead of Game 7 tonight between the Edmonton Oilers and Florida Panthers for the Stanley Cup. The Oilers are trying to complete an improbable comeback. Kyle Moore takes a closer look at how fans here at home are gearing up for the big game.
Here is Handler. He's got Henry.
The Edmonton Oilers are one win away from rewriting NHL history. No team in the NHL's expansion era has trailed 3 games to none in the Stanley Cup final and come back to win the best-of-7 championship.
Well, this is the biggest roller coaster of a ride in hockey I think I've ever been on in regards to my own team. I certainly hope we pull it off. I feel like we will.
It's not hard to tell who Derek DeBone is cheering for tonight. He's been an Oilers fan all his life and has the gear to back it up.
I was lucky enough to be an Oilers fan pretty well right from the get-go. So my father used to bring me lots of stuff home from Edmonton on his yearly trips, business trips to Edmonton. So I've been collecting for probably, I would say, close to 40 years.
I think we have to cheer for the Florida Panthers here in Port Hawkesbury since they did host their training camp at the Port Hawkesbury Civic Center in 2009.
That's not the only team Town Councillor Jason O'Coin will be cheering for tonight. He will also be keeping an eye on Antigonish native Matt McPherson, who will work the lines in the game as part of the officiating crew.
And what that does is it gives, the younger kids here, gives them some hope and they know that in the middle of nowhere you can be drafted and scouted and if not necessarily playing the NHL, maybe officiate.
Back in Whitney Pier, Damone is predicting his team will come out on top tonight.
I'm going to have to go with my Oilers. 5-2 victory, bringing the cup back to Edmonton.
And if they do, the Oilers would be the first Canadian team to win the Cup in more than 30 years. Meanwhile, the Panthers are hunting for the franchise's first Stanley Cup. Either way, the Game 7 winner will make history. Kyle Moore, CBC News, Sydney.
Coming up, the federal government vows to protect Canada's electric vehicle supply chain from Chinese competition. And Princess Anne suffers minor head injuries and a concussion, forcing her to cancel a Memorial Day visit to St. John's. It's a bit of a soggy Monday out there. Ryan is up next with his full weather forecast. We're back on the other side of the break. I don't know about you, Ryan, but my lawn has been dry. Like for so early in the summer, it's a burn spot. So I'm sure it was very grateful for the drink.
For sure. The lawns, the vegetable gardens, of course, the farmers really appreciating the rain. Everybody pretty much picked up at least 10 millimeters.
Okay, so a decent amount.
Yesterday into last night, and some pockets 15, 20 millimeters. So yeah, beneficial shot for sure. And today, just some lingering showers, thunderstorms, and a whole lot of fog as well. Have a look at the webcam shot.
Very foggy.
Peggy's Cove, and And tourist season is here for sure, though. When I loaded up this webcam about half an hour, 45 minutes ago, I could not believe how many people were there at Peggy's Cove. It's quieted down a little bit here over the last few minutes, but yeah, you can see the fog is still lingering there right now. Temperatures around 15 degrees in the fog at Peggy's Cove, and as we look at the temperatures across the province, 17 downtown, 18 in through the valley, 19 at Kedzie. That's one of the hot spots. Port Hawkesbury at 19, 20 in Sydney, and that is certainly our hot spot right now. As we talked about earlier, it's muggy again. Just kind of one of those damp days. Not that hot, but certainly you can feel the mugginess in the air. And as we look at the radar, a couple of things to keep an eye on. One, this line of, well, downpours and thunderstorms tracking south of Halifax may clip up later on this evening, Eastern Shore, Guysborough County, and into Cape Breton. So we'll be keeping an eye on this. Certainly, it does look like while it is tracking east, there's a little bit of a northerly component to that. Also watching this line of storms here, which is currently tracking through Cape Breton in this area highlighted in yellow. Southern Inverness, Richmond, and into Sydney, Cape Breton County is under a severe thunderstorm watch for this. Downpours, lightning, certainly not going to want to get caught out in this. And so we'll be keeping an eye on this over the next few minutes as we continue the program here. And you can see most of getting some of those heavier rains have been tracking off to the south. But as I said, this may clip in. And there's more activity to come because this low is still off to the east. So there's more possibilities for the wet weather to stream in. And on the back side of this low, it's also really unsettled. Lots of scattered showers, risk of some rumbles of thunder, and that's what's going to be on tap for us tomorrow. We'll be on the backside of that low. Another low that will be sailing off to our north. So you can see tonight, temperatures mid-teens in most cases, fog patches rolling back inland as they've already been doing so. Winds will be light, and you can see it's going to be a mild night tonight, as we said, but the mugginess will be sticking around. Tomorrow, we're just looking at more scattered showers, risk of some thunderstorms continuing on the backside of that low-pressure system. As it moves out, the winds are going to become northerly, and perhaps the Tri-County area is seeing some late day clearing. Otherwise, the cloud's certainly going to dominate tomorrow. Now, the wind will become northeasterly. So that's an onshore wind for Sydney and Victoria counties. Downsloping off the Cape Breton Highlands, potential for 20 degrees tomorrow. Cheticamp down through Port Hood. That's going to be one of our warmer spots in the province tomorrow. Will be generally mid to high teens, though, across most of the province tomorrow. Could flirt with 20, especially places like Truro tomorrow as well, and also down towards Bridgewater and Kedzie. We'll see those winds again becoming northerly a little bit earlier here, so wouldn't be surprised if right along the Bay of Fundy temps a little bit cooler. Now, as you can see, Wednesday looks fantastic. As I said earlier, an A++ day. Onshore winds, Yarmouth, Tri-County area, and right along the Atlantic coastline as well. 23, 25, but we'll be into the 26, 27 range. A touch of humidity on Wednesday, but really it's going to be another lovely day. And then, yeah, we'll cloud up as we roll into Thursday. Some showers in the mix, but not a washout by any stretch, but we will be watching for those showers. Lingering risk into Friday as well. On the back side of that system, the humidity will drop off. Monday is Canada Day, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. Right now, Saturday looks like the winner for the weekend. Keeping an eye on a system that looks like it wants to track in Sunday, then maybe clear through Monday. It's a long way out, Amy, but we're all eyes on it for sure through the week.
Yeah, it's never too early to look at the holiday, right?
Never, ever.
All right, we'll talk soon. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
The weather update is brought to you by Tourism Gaspésie. Plan your stay in Gaspésie at tourismgaspésie.com and enjoy extraordinary moments.
Up next, I'll talk with Dr. Gihad Gobran, president of Doctors Nova Scotia, and I'll get his take on the wait list for the family doctor in Nova Scotia reaching a record high. That's our Newsmaker. Stay with us. You're watching CBC Nova Scotia News. The wait list for a family doctor in Nova Scotia has hit a new high. As of June 1st, the number of people on the Need a Family Practice Registry is more than 160,000. Dr. Gihad Gobran is the new president of Doctors Nova Scotia. So first of all, Dr. Gobran, what do you make of this new record number of people on the family doctor wait list?
I feel sorry for the families. Every Nova Scotians really need a family doctor.
Well, the province says the number of retiring doctors is the biggest reason for this latest increase. Are you anticipating many more retirements in the near future?
Our record is showing that 23% almost of the current practicing family physicians are over age of 60. So you can imagine how many years more they can put in service.
So you'll see this list climbing even higher in your view?
That's my expectation, because as a family physicians also, as everyone grow up, family physicians grow up as well.
Well, can you talk a bit about what the work life is like for a family doctor? You know, how are they feeling these days?
Burned. It's too much. It's too much in every direction. Stressed. We can feel and see what's happening, and too much administrative work, and too many families who keep asking every day if we can accept new patients. You know, it is very, very stressful.
So it takes an emotional toll on not just the families, but the physicians.
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely. And even with our own patient, I mean, we try our best to have a time every day for our patient, and walk in clinic in the morning for our own patient. But still, after hours, the emergency physician is over filled, and and there is no easy place they can go in the after hours if they have any emergencies. Waiting hours are long, and walk-in clinics becomes overwhelmed as well, and many of the walk-in clinics are closing because of the shortage of family physician. So it is a bit of a stressful condition, but I like also not to make it. I know it is hard, but I see a light at the end of the tunnel. I see there is. Everyone is working to hire more physicians. We have almost 58 family doctors graduating each year, and that's good. So, I mean, still more work needs to be done, how to keep this physician in, and how to know what the new graduates needs, and how to support the foreign graduate family physician also to stay and see the beauty of Nova Scotia. But I'm seeing, there is a movement. There is a movement. It is coming, but who knows how long it will take. But as far as there is a movement, and there is a recruitment, and there is an effort to keep the physicians in, I think that will fix the system.
Do you think there's more that could be done, or something that could be done to speed up this movement?
There's always more. There's always more compensation, more appealing, more supporting the administrative issues with the family physicians' work. More compensation, despite the new contract is better than before, but we need to see the implementation of this contract, and more compensation, and working with the new graduate also is very, very important. We need to sit with them and see what they want, because most of the new physicians need a balance in life work, and they need to explore what they can do, and how we can support them and keep them happy to stay and work as a family physician in Nova Scotia. This is a job which needs to be, which we need to work on it more.
Now, some people have been on this family doctor wait list for more than 3 years. What do you make of the alternative care options for people like this, Maple or the walk-in clinics?
Yeah, there is a Maple, there is some walk-in clinics, there is some pharmacy, there is some nurse, there is a walk-in clinics, mobile walk-in clinics which work in the weekends. I know that's not the best. I know that every family or every person need to have a family doctor to address uh, their long-term medical needs. But I mean, till this problem solved and we have more family physicians, these are the available resources for them for now.
All right. Well, Dr. Gobran, thank you very much for your time. I know you're busy. We do appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Coming up, Game 7, the Oilers attempt to end more than 3 decades of Cup frustration for Canadian clubs. Welcome back. The federal government says it's considering slapping a surtax on imports of electric vehicles made in China. Chinese EVs are flooding the global market thanks to subsidies from their government. Catherine Cullen has more.
The most important people here today.
Surrounded by auto sector workers, Chrystia Freeland pledged to push back against China for them, starting with consultations on just how strong that pushback should be.
We are going to protect you and defend you from unfair competition.
But the pledge to stop an oversupply of Chinese-made vehicles from flooding Canada is also about domestic and international pressures.
The government clearly had no choice. China clearly has a leg up on the competition because of all the subsidies that they have given to their industry.
A threat when Canada's government has invested tens of billions in the sector.
We have been working tirelessly at this.
There's also a concern about keeping up with allies. Earlier this month, the European Union hit Chinese vehicles with new tariffs of up to 38%. And in May, the United States leveled a tariff of 100% while slamming Chinese economic practices.
It's not competition, it's cheating.
China's government has firmly rejected allegations it's behaving unfairly, describing the EU accusations as being without factual and legal basis. Next week, Canada's government will begin a 30-day consultation about how to proceed.
Nothing is ruled out, and all possible tools are on the table.
But what about the fact that the Canadian government wants Canadians to switch over to EVs, and China is supplying them?
We also do not believe that the path to climate action is based on production which is made using low environmental standards, using low labor standards, and potentially threatening our security.
Freeland was asked about the potential that China could hit back with economic sanctions of its own. She says the government will take that into consideration, but it needs to defend Canada's national interest. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Ottawa.
Residents of a Toronto riding are heading to the polls today to vote for a new MP. The by-election in Toronto St. Paul's was called after former Liberal MP Carolyn Bennett stepped down earlier this year. Residents started casting their ballots when polls opened this morning.
I want the candidate who's going to work for us, yes, and who's going to represent us.
The Liberals have held the seat for the last 10 elections, but their victory today is far from a sure thing. In national polls, the Conservatives have a double-digit lead over the Liberals. Many political pundits view this contest as a test of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's leadership. The Liberal candidate in this riding, Leslie Church, has been a political staffer for most of her career. Her main rival, Conservative candidate Dawn Stewart, is a financial and marketing specialist. Polls close at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Well, turning to the Middle East, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the intense phase of fighting in Gaza's southern city of Rafah is nearly over. He also says Israel plans to redeploy troops to its border with Lebanon as tensions escalate with Hezbollah. Margaret Evans has more from the border.
We're up in northern Israel, about 5 kilometers from the border with Lebanon. There's been a real increase in cross-border attacks from both directions in recent days, and with it an increase in rhetoric from both sides. We've had the Hezbollah leader, Hassan Nasrallah, saying he can reach deep into Israel. A response from Israel, the Israeli military saying that they've approved ground invasion plans for southern Lebanon if they are needed. In the meantime, you have tens of thousands of people on both sides of the border who've been displaced. We've been speaking to some of them on the Israeli side. Some of them say that they've had enough, that the Israeli government hasn't got a plan for them. They feel forgotten given the fighting that's taking place in Gaza. Some others say that it's time for the Israeli government to step up and solve the problem with Hezbollah and this border militarily. The fear for many is that the longer that the conflict continues in Gaza, the greater the likelihood that this border could kick off in earnest and with devastating consequences to populations on both sides. And not just those populations, but the rest of the Middle East fear that this could be or become a regional war. Margaret Evans, CBC News in northern Israel.
22 people are dead after a fire at a lithium battery plant in South Korea. Officials say the fire was likely sparked by exploding lithium batteries. Most of the victims were migrant workers from China. The fire reportedly began in the area of the plant where workers inspect and package the batteries. What triggered them to explode is under investigation. We have a new CBC News analysis of federal data on the temporary foreign worker program. It shows a dramatic jump in the program's use over the past few years. Paula Duhacek has more from Calgary.
Federal data shows that last year, Canadian employers were approved to fill about 240,000 jobs with temporary foreign workers. That's more than twice the number of approvals they got 5 years ago in 2018. The gains happen across a wide variety of jobs in different industries. Across the economy, there were major gains in jobs ranging from food counter attendants to administrative assistants to construction laborers. Now, it's important to point out this data is about the number of workers that businesses have been approved to hire. It doesn't directly translate to the number of temporary foreign workers who are in Canada, but it does show that businesses have been moving in big numbers to make use of the program. Part of why they're moving to fill more jobs this way is because they can. Coming out of the pandemic, the federal government loosened some of the program's hiring restrictions to provide relief to businesses dealing with labor shortages. Some industries that were having an especially hard time finding workers, like food service and accommodation, were allowed to triple the number of low-wage workers they could hire this way. Still, some economists criticize this move.
We hear a lot about labor shortages framed as an economic problem, as like a first-order economic problem, as if we don't address these labor shortages, the economy is going to somehow fall apart. But that doesn't make sense for economists. You know, for economists, labor shortage is very much an economic opportunity. It's an opportunity to incentivize businesses to try to get more out of their existing workers through investments in technology, through training, through hiring workers that are typically overlooked, like workers with disabilities.
Employment and Social Development Canada declined an interview for this story, but in a statement, a spokesperson said this was a short-term move to help businesses coming out of the pandemic, and now labor market conditions are better. It's easier to find workers locally, and so they're tightening up some of the program restrictions once again. Paula Duhacek, CBC News, Calgary.
Princess Anne has canceled her upcoming visit to Canada. She was expected in St. John's next week for Memorial Day services, but the Princess Royal has been hospitalized after an accident involving a horse. Heather Gillis has the details.
This area will be flooded with people on July 1st for a historic ceremony here at the National War Memorial in St. John's. Newfoundland's unknown soldier will be laid to rest, but a major figure will be absent. The Colonel-in-Chief of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment, Princess Anne, has been hospitalized with a concussion and minor injuries, according to Buckingham Palace.
She'll be missed.
The Royal Canadian Legion Newfoundland and Labrador Command extended the invitation. The princess was last here 8 years ago, commemorating the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Beaumont Hamel.
We are all disappointed that she can't make it, but things happen, and we were so glad that she initially agreed to come over to be with us on this tremendous historic occasion of the 100th anniversary and the repatriation, and to be with her regiment.
Buckingham Palace isn't divulging details, but it's understood the Princess Royal was potentially struck by a horse's head or legs. Emergency services were called to her country estate, and she was taken to hospital in Bristol. The palace says the princess is recovering but remains in hospital as a precaution. Doctors have ordered her to cancel engagements for the next week, including her trip to Newfoundland and Labrador. Premier Andrew Furey says he's saddened to hear of the accident and that the princess will be absent from next week's commemorative events. He's also wishing her a speedy recovery.
Well, the royal family have had a rough year. So we had the King's diagnosis in February, and then, of course, Kate's diagnosis in March.
Royal watcher Crystal Rose is disappointed, too. She missed the princess's previous visits to the province and was looking forward to this one.
We've had a lot of health problems going on in the royal family. And I know Princess Anne had stepped in to take over some of King Charles's duties, and now she's in hospitals.
It's expected the princess, who is 73, should return home later this week. Buckingham Palace expects her to make a full recovery. It's said there are plans to explore how her visit to the province can be adapted. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, as we mentioned earlier in the show, tonight the Edmonton Oilers take on the Florida Panthers in the deciding game of their series. And it's been a wild ride for fans in Edmonton. And as Terry Reith reports, they couldn't be more excited.
One way or another, the Edmonton Oilers' remarkable season comes to a close tonight. A team that looked like it was going nowhere in November scrapped its way into the playoffs, now playing in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. For many fans, this is a team of destiny.
I have a lot of faith because I think one of the big themes is to believe.
There were so many points where you thought they weren't going to do anything that it getting to where it's at now is just incredible.
The mood couldn't be higher. And it's summer, it's June in Edmonton, so everybody's excited. It's the perfect storm. I love it.
Rogers Place is sold out tonight. It will be Canada's biggest watch party, but far from the only one. From Vancouver Island to Newfoundland to the far north to Imperial, Saskatchewan, people will be watching this game with interest. I mentioned Imperial, Saskatchewan, the hometown of Oilers head coach Chris Knobloch, celebrating his first year as an NHL coach in this Game 7. He says he is just thrilled and excited to be here.
They know what's at stake. They know what we're playing in. I don't think they need any extra motivation. I think that's just about settling the nerves and staying focused on what is important that needs to be executed, and just the emphasis on enjoying the moment and having fun.
It's been 18 years since the Edmonton Oilers have faced a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup final, 34 years since their last cup. In fact, Matthias Ekholm, now an Oilers star, was born on the same day the Oilers hoisted their last Stanley Cup, but he says, no pressure.
At the end of the day, the sun's going to come up tomorrow. It's a big game. I get it. We all want to win it, like no question about it, but there's going to be a team losing tonight regardless of how the game goes.
Edmonton is preparing for a huge party tonight. Of course, everyone is hoping for a win. Edmonton police are also planning. They have a command post set up downtown, not exactly saying what their plans are, just asking fans not to get too rowdy tonight. Terry Reith, CBC News, Edmonton.
guess you know when it's humid outside when it feels like it's humid in here.
It definitely is. Yeah, my hair is nuts this evening.
It never changes.
But yeah, definitely it'll be a welcome relief tomorrow as those winds shift to north, and we'll be watching those dew points drop off, which will be welcome for sure. Have a look at our viewer picture of the day. Have a look. This one is zooming in on Little Tan Cook, and this is a beautiful sunset shot.
Look at the colors. Fantastic.
Thank you so much to Jamie, Lisa, and Buddy for sharing this. You can see the water just off on the left-hand side there. There's
this time of year really cranks out some nice sunrises and sunsets, doesn't it?
So thank you to Jamie and Lisa and Buddy, and Ryan's Picks at cbc.ca is where you can send your pictures tomorrow, tonight and through tomorrow. Cloudy skies, scattered showers, risk of thunderstorms. The fog patches tonight will take some time dissipating tomorrow, maybe as late as late morning. So just be mindful of that. Temperatures high teens, low 20s. For Wednesday, we're looking at temperatures that are going to be in the mid 20s for most. The southwest wind will keep temperatures cooler, Tri-County and right along the Atlantic coastline. But overall, Wednesday is looking fantastic. And we'll just run you through this really quick. You can see that low slowly working to the east. Lots of scattered showers, though, and that risk of a storm underneath that low. And then for Wednesday, looking pretty good. We'll see another system kind of creeping back into the region for Thursday. Looks like some scattered showers with that lingering into Friday.
Yeah, fingers crossed for Monday.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, a new but familiar fixture made its maiden voyage on the pond of the Halifax Public Gardens this weekend. It is a miniature model of the world-famous RMS Titanic. A Titanic model has graced the pond since 1995. This is the third edition. While detailed on the outside, it's hollow on the inside with metal ballast to keep it upright.
It was made by the Maritime Ship Modelers Guild using a 3D printer. The model took more than 100 hours to make and weighs about 200 pounds.
And lots of fans there.
Yeah.
All right, well, that is it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.